Before you go, Nick Robinson has a question for you.
Sure. Grant Shapps, you're saying that this is a very significant set of results, and yet you seem to be saying that the country are telling you to carry on doing what you've already announced you're going to do. Maybe they're actually saying they don't believe you'll give a referendum, they don't like the renegotiation you're promising, because they don't know what it is, and they want something much more serious in terms of standing up to Europe.
Well, I think it's pretty clear that people want the choice. You can't get much more serious than giving people the in-out referendum. I mean, that is the ultimate choice, and it's exactly what we're pledging. Now, Labour and Lib Dem.
Yeah, but if it was so convincing, this pledge, why aren't people voting for it? I mean, you're saying it's very significant, and aren't you in danger of doing what all politicians do, saying, I'm listening to the people, and they've told me to carry on advocating the policies I advocated last week?
Grant Shapps, you've got to love him. Well, actually, you haven't. The renegotiation with the EU will simply be rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. We might, if we're lucky, get a few quid back, and we might even get a veto on what type of pants Van Rompuy can wear. But the negotiation process is gonna be worthless and pointless. And I'll answer the question about why people aren't voting for the Conservatives. It's because they don't believe them. We've had too many lies, and this is too little, too late.
Tim Farron joins us, President of the Liberal Democrats from Manchester. Mr. Farron, thank you for coming in. It's looking a nightmare for you, isn't it?
It's looking as bad as I'd feared. First of all, it's as bad as I'd feared, and I'd hoped it would be better. We're in a situation where here in the Northwest we don't expect to have held our seat here. I will just say this: the Liberal Democrats, if whatever it is we end up recording in terms of our numbers of seats, that we fought a campaign which I am extremely proud of.
Hang on. For a moment, I thought he just said that the Liberal Democrats ran a campaign that he was incredibly proud of, having lost 10 of their 11 members of the European Parliament. Just how ridiculous does that sound? Honestly, you go from 11 MEPs to 1, and the chairman of the party is proud of your performance. Unbelievable. What would be a campaign that he wasn't proud of be like?
It does look possible that you will have no MEPs. We don't know the result yet, obviously, but we'll get it in a moment. But it would be pretty shattering, wouldn't it, if that happened?
Yeah, I think it does look like we could have none, and it would be just that. I think we always suspected that this could be an outcome of this election. We've done everything we can to try and make sure that we get a bit above nothing.
We've done everything we can to try and get above nothing. Nothing quite like reaching for the stars, is there, Tim, eh?
Over the last quarter of a century now, the whole debate in Europe has become more and more toxic when it comes to our relationship with the European Union.
It's only become toxic in your eyes because people disagree with your point of view. You and the Liberal Democrats want total and utter merger with the European Union. And those people that you say have made the debate toxic, well, they want to rule themselves. Wow, what a radical idea, huh, Tim? Ruling ourselves.
And to take them on. And Nick Clegg did so, and I'm dead proud of it. I'm dead proud of what the Liberal Democrats have achieved over this last few months of this campaign.
So let's just get this straight. He's dead proud of Nick Clegg being publicly humiliated by Nigel Farage twice, and he's dead proud of losing 10 of his 11 MEPs, and he's dead proud of nearly 300 council seats that they lost in the recent local elections. Oh yeah, you should be really dead proud. What an embarrassment Tim Farron has become. How can you defend the indefensible? Unbelievable.
One signal I think people will be taking from this election is that if you do as the Liberal Democrats do and come out for Europe, the signal will be you lose votes.
Do you think they're paying Grandpa for his insightful wisdom? I doubt it. I certainly hope not.
But what I think tonight is very clear is not just in the UK, but across Europe, is that the citizens of Europe feel that they are not being well served by the priorities of the European Union. And I think they feel that it's run by a bunch of Eurocrats who are overpaid, with a bloated bureaucracy and out of touch. And I agree with them, incidentally, on all three of those.
Liam Fox calling EU bureaucrats out of touch. Wow! This is so rich coming from a guy who's been a career politician and on the gravy train since 1992, and who even made an expense claim for 3 pence for travelling 100 yards. He just had to make sure he claimed every penny he could from you and I. What a scumbag. And for him to tell me that the EU bureaucracy is out of touch is just unbelievable hypocrisy. You see, it's not just Liberal Democrats, it's not just Labour, it's not Conservative. It's the whole fucking lot of them.
Drinking what looks like a cup of tea rather than the usual pint. Makes a change.
But of course, we will respond by making clear that we can fix the relationship between Britain and Europe.
No, you can't.
That we can deliver real change.
No, you can't.
And give people a say in a referendum.
No, you won't.
And only the Conservative Party can do that. And that, of course, is what we have to make clear from now to the next general election.
But you've been saying that, but it's not convincing people, is it? Otherwise they wouldn't have gone for Nigel Farage.
Well, people are entirely capable of voting different ways in different elections.
Patronising wanker.
As we know, we are seeing this just in this last few days. Local election results are different from European election results. So people use different elections to deliver different messages. And certainly, as I say, there is a message across Europe of disillusionment with Europe, and the EU has got to hear that loud and clear.
Just a point on that rise of the Eurosceptic parties. We're seeing it, we talked a lot about the far right tonight and the Front National, but of course we're also seeing the rise of Eurosceptic or sort of anti-austerity parties on the left, in particular in Spain, where it looks like that the established parties, both on the centre-left and the centre-right, have taken a real pounding. And there the challenge has not come from the far right, but it's come from the far left.
Now, despite looking like your crazy, wild-eyed ex-girlfriend, this bird actually makes quite a good point. She's making the point that it's not just the right that are disillusioned with the EU, it's the left that are also disillusioned with the EU.
Doesn't it show that you were just wrong?
No, it doesn't show that. I think I'm very proud of the campaign we fought.
Wow, there are talking points and there are talking points. The Liberal Democrats are just too much. This is ridiculous. Everybody's proud of failure.
Can you just wait there a moment? Because I want to bring in a member of the Federal Executive, Martin Todd, who joins us from Southampton, who wants a rather different approach. Mr. Todd, what would you like to see happen?
Well, I'm extremely concerned by what's happened. We've seen our share of support halve. We know, what, 35% of the population would vote in if there was a vote tomorrow, and we portrayed ourselves as the party of in, and we only got 7%. And so there's a real issue with our strategy. There's a real issue, I think, with our leadership, and just saying more of the same isn't going to cut it.
Well, of course, I'm as concerned as Martin and everyone else is about these results, and no one wants to see Liberal Democrat councillors and Liberal Democrat MEPs re-elected more than I do, losing really good, strong MEPs like Graham Watson and Andrew Duff, George Lyon potentially in Scotland, though that result isn't confirmed yet. That's very bad.
Just how on earth did Danny Alexander become an MP? Oh my God.
Under a system which is operated on very large regions, many millions of people per region. Of course, in a general election, it's by parliamentary constituencies. So it is a fact that really matters in terms of how we look forward as a party.
How credible is the idea of renegotiation?
Well, it depends what you mean by it. I mean, as it's been set out by the Foreign Office, we're not really asking for anything.
Did you hear that? All this bunkum about renegotiating our terms with the EU, it's all bollocks. It's all rhetoric. There's nothing that will change. Cameron knows this. He's openly lying to you.
It doesn't require an intergovernmental conference. I think even Nick Clegg has said that he'd be happy with the declared aims of the government because they wouldn't really amount to anything.
Cameron's negotiation will never, can never, and could never amount to anything. He's lied to you from the moment he first mentioned it.
Now, many people hoped the crash would lead to the end of neoliberalism as social democratic movement. It's done the opposite, as it did after all in the 1930s. The Great Crash led to the politics of the extreme right in Europe, and we're seeing that not fortunately on the same scale, but in a kind of minimal scale. And the very interesting question that's been raised of how these right-wing parties will act in the European Parliament. Now, some people fear there would be a blocking minority, that they would get 33% of the seats in the European Parliament, which would block legislation. That won't happen.
That won't happen because it can't happen. You could get 100% of the European Parliament to block legislation that has been dictated by the Commission, and the Commission will still put it through, because it's the Commission that holds the power, nothing to do with the European Parliament. All the MEPs are literally there for show. That is it. Ceremonial. Forget the 33% blocking. That won't happen. It can't happen. The EU Commission holds all of the power in the EU, and that is the fundamental problem with it. They're unelected bureaucrats ruling our lives.
In Germany, you've had Angela Merkel's support standing up pretty solid, but even there, you've got an anti-single currency party, Alternative for Deutschland, polling at around 7%.
But this Germany anti-Euro party has only been established 12 months. You imagine how much damage they could do in the next European elections.
What's going to be the reaction in Brussels? I think the big fear will be this, that in the three main countries that push the European Union, if you like, Germany and France, but also Britain, in France and Britain, you now have intense pressure from the radical right, from the right extremes.
Did you hear that language? The radical right and the right extremes. They're planting it that UKIP and anybody who wants to govern themselves are right-wing fascists and they're going to burn your house down.
However, think about the last 60 years of European Union integration, you know, almost written in to the DNA of practically everybody who's been involved in that project, certainly on the continent, has been this ever greater European integration.
Did you hear that? It's in the DNA of the people who started the European project that further integration, political integration, is the goal. It's in the DNA. Remember all those conspiracy theorists who have been saying that the EU was about a United States of Europe for years? Well look, he's openly admitting it. He's openly admitting that the EU is about political union and nothing else. And with it being in the DNA, it's obviously been the goal from the word go. Wake up, people. The European Union isn't some loving union. It's a centralised dictatorship. It's there to govern every aspect of our lives without ever voting for it. We have to come out of it if we stand any chance of a future.